Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Mr. Speaker, the relationship between the US and the UK is one of our foremost relationships, and I have confidence in the Ambassador in the role that he is doing.
That was Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, with Keir Starmer defending Peter Mandelson, the UK's ambassador to the US. By Thursday, we heard this from the Foreign Office Minister, Stephen Doherty.
The emails show, Mr. Speaker, that the depth and extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment.
Well, those emails published by Bloomberg are deeply revealing of Mandelson's relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Today, we're bringing you the inside story of that scoop and asking what it means for Keir Starmer and the Labour government. Hello, you're listening to a special episode of the Bloomberg Daybreak Europe podcast. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Now, this story starts with some 18,000 emails from Jeffrey Epstein's personal Yahoo account, which were seen by Bloomberg, including many exchanges with Peter Mandelson, who was at the time the EU's Trade Commissioner and was, until yesterday, the UK's ambassador to the United States. The messages show a close personal relationship with the disgraced financier and exchanges at key moments in the months before he was imprisoned in mid-2008. They provoked a chain of events which led to Mandelson's removal from his position at a key moment, just days from Donald Trump's visit to the UK. Well, if you recall, Stephen, Peter Mandelson was appointed as Britain's ambassador to Washington in February. His ties to Epstein were known then, but Lord Mandelson had previously denied that they were extensive. Now Keir Starmer and his advisers face questions about why Mandelson, the spin doctor, former minister, key figure in Tony Blair's administration, was chosen for this most important of diplomatic roles. The details of Mandelson's support for Epstein, writing to him after his conviction, it just could not happen in Britain, seemed to be a tipping point. Now, we've had criticism from the Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch and this Friday from Nigel Farage, talking about a serious misjudgment from the Prime Minister and how Morgan McSweeney, the Prime Minister's right-hand man, and his role now being considerably in doubt, according to the Reform UK's leader. Well, this story was a political bombshell in Westminster, so we wanted to talk more about how it came about. For that, we're joined by our finance reporter Harry Wilson, who reported on those emails, and by our political correspondent Ellen Milligan as well. Harry, I wanted to start with you, and I suppose how this story got started, and I suppose what you thought when you first saw the contents of these emails.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember looking at that email. I mean, it was among the first that I found, and it was really just as soon as you read it, it was just I kind of thought, you know, if you've been a Hollywood scriptwriter, imagining like what someone might say inadvisedly to a convicted pedophile just before they go to jail, I don't think you'd have come up with words quite as dramatic as what Lord Mandelson had sent. And it was just, I think, the overwhelming sense of the closeness between the two of them, that, you know, this was more than just an association, as I think Lord Mandelson has described it in recent days and weeks. It was more, this was seemed like a deeply personal friendship the two of them had.
What were the sentences and words that stood out for you? I mean, this is a huge volume of emails that you went through. You also sent, a long request for comment to Peter Mandelson regarding this cache of emails and what the contents of it was. What stood out to you also as you kind of waded through them all?
Well, I suppose one thing to say is, I mean, this was a massive team effort. So there was a whole bunch of us who've been working on this, and I think to be honest, amongst all of us, just as we went through the emails, we got this kind of sense of, I guess it's how you might describe it as some kind of quasi-lobbying campaign that Lord Mandelson had been on for Epstein in the months before he went to jail. It's kind of like you sort of imagine, you know, if you had you're a friend in peril and he's there sort of almost every week checking in with Epstein, making sure he's okay, trying to kind of find ways of putting him potentially in touch with people who might be able to help him. It's more than just, I guess, a sense of being a moral support. It's a sense that there's an active level of support there. And I think that's what really kind of, I guess, surprised us. And then when you see what he actually sends just the day before Epstein actually goes to jail, it's really the culmination of a whole sort of months-long, I guess even years-long thing in which Mandelson has been all the way through this kind of support for Epstein to an extraordinary degree.
Of course, that expression, I think the world of you, in that email, as you say, the day before Jeffrey Epstein went to jail, certainly stands out. Talk to us about the exchanges that you and the team had with Peter Mandelson before this story was published.
So the first he learned of our story would have been on Monday afternoon. We sent an email to him at 3:36 in the afternoon on Monday. It was a very long email. It was nearly 2,000 words long. It contained all the emails that we were planning to report in full, with the dates of when they were sent. We explained to him which email account the emails had been sent from and to. And we then listed about 20 questions to him, just setting out all the sort of different things that we felt the emails raised as issues with him, and asking him for comment. And at that point, we had planned, there was a lot of stuff there. And in fairness to him, we felt that he should have a decent amount of time to respond. So we gave him till essentially the end of the week to come back to us. But then I guess sort of events kind of moving pretty fast. You had the U.S. Senate, Congressional Committee come out on later that day with the birthday book. And in there was this 10-page, I guess, how would you describe it? Like glowing tribute that Mandelson gave to Epstein in 2003 for this extraordinary birthday book. And that really sort of then from there, the sort of pressure started growing on Mandelson. And I think at that point, we were starting to think to ourselves, we're being overtaken by events here. And particularly then on Tuesday, there was this growing chorus, I think, around Lord Mandelson in his role as ambassador. Was it viable? So we decided then to bring forward actually our deadline for his response to the next day, and then Wednesday morning was. Suddenly, out of the blue, came this interview that Lord Mandelson gave to the Sun, in which he started talking about obviously the birthday book, saying how much he deeply regretted his association with Epstein. But then, and obviously to us, this really stood out when he started saying, hinting at further revelations to come, which to our minds certainly suggested that. He was obviously aware of what we'd sent. And it was that point we decided to directly go to him on WhatsApp, because at this point we still had not received any recognition from him that he'd received anything that we'd sent to him. And so we messaged him, and then it I guess that sort of things sort of started spiraling really from there, and we ended up obviously publishing later that day.
At this point, I'd like to bring in our political correspondent, Ellen Milligan, to think about this. This revelation, I mean, these were letters and support, this relationship between Mandelson and Epstein around the time of his conviction for soliciting sex from a minor. This is the issue for Keir Starmer now, isn't it, Ellen? How damaging do you think this is for the Prime Minister around his judgment? That's the question that politicians and others in the country are seeming to put to the Prime Minister now.
Yeah, it's deeply damaging, and the Prime Minister has suffered other resignations during his 1 or so years in office, including his Deputy Prime Minister over a tax issue recently. But the sacking of Peter Mandelson is uniquely humiliating because it was entirely predictable. I mean, this is a politician who had to resign twice from Tony Blair's government for his murky relationships with wealthy businessmen. He's a politician whose friendship with Epstein, including since his 2008 conviction, was public knowledge. It was raised in the vetting process, we report today, when he was made ambassador. The Prime Minister was warned about this. He was asked about it by the Financial Times on the week of his appointment, to which Mandelson told the FT to F off. All these questions have been swirling around Peter Mandelson for years. And what Harry's reporting did was kind of shine new light on the depth of the relationship, but much of it was known. And so, yes, there are questions being raised now about the Prime Minister's judgment, about his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney's judgment, who we've reported was a big advocate for Mandelson getting this role. It raises questions about the vetting process and also questions about the government's own reasoning for sacking Mandelson. I mean, in their statement, they say that the emails that Harry published show a new depth and extent to the relationship. In particular, the Peter Mandelson suggestion that Epstein's first conviction was wrong. And I was in the briefing with the Prime Minister's spokesperson yesterday, and we were putting to him, that sounds like you were comfortable with them having a friendship as long as he thought Epstein was guilty of the crimes. But now, because there's evidence that he thought he was innocent, that's the thing that's moved the dial. So lots of questions being raised around the judgment of the Prime Minister now.
Indeed. Ellen, we'll await your reporting then on what does happen at that state visit. That is our political correspondent, Ellen Milligan. And in our studio, our finance reporter, Harry Wilson, reporting on those emails revealing that relationship between Peter Mandelson and the late Jeffrey Epstein.
And you can read more of those stories, Epstein's inbox, on the Bloomberg website, on Bloomberg.com, and the terminal as well. And more on the story behind the story of Mandelson's Epstein emails. You find both of those stories on the Bloomberg website. This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, your morning brief on the stories making news from London to Wall Street and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed every morning on Apple, Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning on London DAB Radio, the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day, right here on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.